I do. Look at that chart.
What up, folks? Welcome back. Happy Friday. It's sunny here. I hope it's sunny where you are. It's probably evening where many of you are right now. Got a good show for y'all today. Got some people in the chat. Peace, are you? Oh, I thought it said nom nom. Are you eating right now as per usual, or is this?
I am. I'm having my lunch here. I've got shredded carrots and cucumbers today
For lunch.
Just like
for
plain
lunch.
Jane, just shredded.
Well, I got dressing, oil, vinegar, dill, the good stuff.
Okay, if you're just gonna lay out shredded cucumbers and carrots, you have to actually say other things as well.
That's right.
I think it's about it. But okay, I'm on board with that. Good. Some olive oil, some vinegar. Let's go.
Like we should start putting up mints of pieces of meals that he eats during the show or something.
Not a bad idea.
Minestrone would have popped off 2 weeks ago, I think.
The minestrone would have gone crazy.
All right, I'm just gonna retweet this live link here, and then I think we should just jump in. We got a big show here, and we got some guests. Let's get that stream up on Twitter so we can retweet it. Get some folks coming in here, but let's do a piece. Let's kick it off. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening for our Euros. We got some Euros here. I think, Stanley, you're one of our Euros, right? Are you in the European time zones right now?
Yeah, in London.
All right, welcome back. Are we episode 20? I think we are. Good. Episode 20 of Internet Explorers. It's a weekly rundown show where we extremely online individuals explore and maybe even romanticize new consumer internet experiences. Got a great show here for you today. Of course, always joined by Josh, who I got to say, Josh, your background is way less FOMO inducing than the jungles that were here with us the last couple weeks.
I had to tone it down a bit, and I'm moving places again tomorrow, so we'll see what it looks like next week.
So we got Josh, and we got Peace on the screen. How we doing, Peace?
Doing good, gearing up.
I'm trying to catch him with a mouthful of shredded carrots and cucumbers, aka his lunch, in his mouth. But
I'm locked in, baby. I'm ready to go. Ready to browse.
All right, we got a big show for you today. We got a couple guests. We got Stanley, who you can see on the screen here from Lens. We're going to dive into the exciting things that have happened there. We've got Johnny joining us from Hypersub and Fabric. We just come off a week at Brand New with the Boys Club crew over at South by Southwest. And then apparently the internet still goes on, even though I was disconnected it from the week. And so I'm excited to see what Josh has curated for us today. But yeah, let's Josh, you want to take it away? Let's jump in with your friend Stanley.
Yeah, let's go. Yeah, Sandy, I think maybe to start off, I think, you guys Lens has been out for a while. I think lots of people have used it at various points throughout probably the past couple of years. So for people who, maybe used it 6 months ago, haven't caught up with kind of the latest developments, like how would you kind of catch them up on the current state of Lens and maybe like what would be kind of a big good hook to potentially pull them back into the ecosystem?
Yeah, it's quite interesting. So definitely been building a bit over 2 years, and mainly as a protocol. So kind of the way I explain Lens is that it's a shared social network, where you have an identity and it has portability between anything that is built integrated on Lens, and it uses the blockchain basically. So it's an on-chain protocol. So the blockchain is used to secure ownership for your profile and the connections you make amongst other peers. And I think most interesting for Lens has been that it went permissionless a couple of weeks ago, which was quite interesting, as there was a so-called Lens improvement proposal, which direct the community and the protocol what kind of changes should be made, and that was made by one community member. So as of a couple of weeks now, anyone can go and mint their Lens profile and basically start using Lens and all these various applications that has been built. So a kind of over the past years, we've seen maybe like 2 generations of apps being built. So very first ones were open source, a little bit hackathon projects, and now like the second generation is more of smaller teams that raise funds and to build on Lens. And one specifically, for example, Orb, they're basically building something like where I would say like Instagram and Twitter basically had a baby. So kind of first apps were similar that we find already online, microblogging, tape XYZ, that is video, and now you kind of have like a little bit more novel applications. So that's kind of like most recent progress on Lens.
So there's two things that I think were sort of strategies that I'm really interested in learning more about. One was the sort of like protocol first focus and really pushing the application development out into the ecosystem. And so, like I guess the bull case there is if you give people tools and there's an immense amount of talent and creativity, new and interesting things can emerge that might inspire people, and you sort of get this like value across multiple different places. So you can see the market being bigger. And also maybe the trade-off there is that you're really relying on sort of like the ability of these smaller teams to really build some sort of critical mass around these social products that really get their value from their being awesome, they're sharing awesome things. And I feel like that's also very tightly tied to this idea of like why you stayed permissioned for so long. So can you maybe help us understand a little bit about the strategic direction you're taking here to the world?
Yeah, it's probably the most difficult thing to consider as a developer of if you have some sort of idea or like innovation, like whether it's something that will could be as a protocol or end up as being a protocol, and whether to start from one application use case and go from there. And I think both of the approaches work pretty well. And I would say that for Lens, maybe one of the best decisions actually was the protocol first approach. And it felt in the beginning really maybe kind of like a too long-term thinking from the perspective that we wanted to have a protocol that is as neutral as possible. So we've approached social from an angle where like how we can build a shared social graph where you have this portability, but also each application kind of like can build their own thing, and we don't necessarily like have this like competitive element there. So we wanted to avoid us building kind of like a one flagship experience where all these other apps are kind of like feeding distribution or building towards direction, because I do think that looking at all these social networks is that the leading app usually drives the behavior. So whatever that leading app might be on existing social media networks or even these decentralized alternatives. So I think it took a little bit of time on actually seeing people building things, and it was a little bit of chaotic to guide everyone to find experiences, because everyone came to us and like, I want to use Lens, like where's the Lens app? And we're basically saying, well, there's no Lens app, but there's this ecosystem of all this bunch of apps, like just go and find something. And the quality of these applications just fluctuated quite a lot. So you had apps that were built as an like open source project, like hey, that anyone can go and just contribute, and then you have like something that is done over a weekend hackathon, but then you have actually teams that they want to build social and scale and want to bring something new. So it is a little bit of like chaotic from that angle. But from network neutrality perspective, I think that was a really good choice, but also really hard to pull in more generalist manner. So especially if you're thinking of building something, you should really carefully think whether you are trying to build something very neutral, and then that protocol approach might be great, or if you're not building something neutral, but you want to kickstart something and ensure the experience is what ensure very good experience, then maybe the app approach is way to start. Or what I've seen more recently is that I met a team that was, they were building on Lens, and they tried the app, they tried the to extend the protocol as well with open actions, and effectively what they did ended up doing is that they went with a meme coin. So they took the meme coin first approach, which actually was their like a best thing so far. So it can work that way too.
We like a good meme coin first approach.
Yeah, we certainly do. Stanley, I'm curious. I think so many of these like consumer social products really live and die on their ability to just become a meaningful social context for people. And I think, yeah, because of this kind of broad ecosystem approach with Lens, often if you're just kind of stepping in to just explore it broadly, you kind of miss out on these kind of more niche, maybe meaningful social contexts. So where would you recommend people, I guess, like, are there like a few core pockets of this across the Lens ecosystem that you would recommend people checking out, or like early signs of really meaningful social contexts that you think will grow?
Yeah, I'm quite excited about orb.club. So Orb has been building for I think a year and a half, and the more latest app is, it just feels different than anything else out there, and the team keeps still learning. Building social, and I think that's something really interesting. I also find there's like interesting behavior on Lens that is happening. So people tend to post more relaxed content, so you don't necessarily find really kind of like a heated debates about blobs, and their effectiveness. There is some technical discussions from time to time, but it's a little bit more casual and a little bit more cultural. And maybe it's a little bit because of the network design as well. The on-chain component is very close, that whatever happens in the network. So a lot of the content can be collected as NFTs. And one interesting behavior that is happening across the whole protocol is that people are using this one meme coin, or maybe it's like a social coin, Bonsai, to collect content. So what I find it interesting is that people are collecting content that they would not really collect with real money. And I find that interesting because it accelerates and it really incentivizes people to create content and make them as collectible, and they can be memes or anything that isn't like really necessarily monetary value, but you can just collect with a coin that basically you got dropped as a user. But Orb is, as like an app, it's quite interesting. And if people keep building this way, I think we'll see more and more novel use cases and experiences.
It seems to me like this, I was around in the Web2 days, the early Twitter user, remember Facebook's Open Graph and the sort of developer ecosystem that emerged from that, and these big businesses that were built based on the distribution that came from it. And I think it's easy to forget just how powerful sort of an open social network can be to create other things that are not just social networks, right? So I think we're almost in this phase right now where we're rebooting a lot of like the Web2 apps, but my sense is that like the ability to bring in a social graph into an even different context is going to be pretty exciting. So whether that's gaming, or maybe that's in sort of the venture world, I'm curious if you see or have seen or have visions of apps that might not be traditionally considered social networks, or business opportunities that aren't social networks that you would like to see or already seeing being built on Lens.
Yeah, it's and I do agree that distribution is really key. In some way, I see that one benefit when you have like shared network, which is kind of like some sort of guaranteed access there. And blockchain is really good for something like that, securing for everyone to come in and just build an existing audience. Something that's interesting is that whenever there's actually a new application that is succeeds, and it's quite common now in social, is that you have big spikes and excitements in a very early stage of a social application, and it might come very quickly down as the retention might be harder. People have very short attention span. But what is exciting is that on a shared network, that user attention and user base just is an opportunity for the next for next developers or even existing ones to leverage. So taking an example of Clubhouse, where the primitive was the voice, and they achieved to get a user base of millions of users, and eventually the retention didn't work. But if that will have been built on a shared social network where there's that portability, that could have been opportunity for a next team, that is building voice audio to actually leverage from that existing audience. So somehow, like, these networks are like compounding over time, and I think that's very valuable. But I also think regarding what kind of a networks will we build through Lens, I think it might be a lot of to do with the financial aspect, and because there is the component of assets, and we're talking about ERC20s, NFTs, and who knows what can be also in those categories. But what I would see interesting is that financial part kind of exists already in traditional social. The users then don't just see that all this monetization that is flowing around from advertisers to platforms. But when you have the ownership, you actually are the network as a user, and you have these different kinds of assets, incentives, and audiences that you can leverage. And the vision for Lens is that we somehow are trying to push towards, especially in the future iterations, to a direction where we try to avoid building a monolithic network. Instead, that we would like to see all these applications really creating their own content graphs, and even not reflecting all the user bases, but basically choosing what the users want to bring over. And that could lead a little bit into more heterogeneous networks where you have these pockets of culture breeding, and applications are able to kind of build a little bit more content modes as well. So that's why that will lead to a result where all these apps, there aren't like clients that are reflecting just all the data from that network.
I love it. Yeah, I think we're going to come into this phase where there's a lot of hype around Web3 social right now. I think we should assume that some of that is going to be overhyped at a certain point. But I think the fact that developers have their hands in this and are really the ones that are the most excited about this stuff is going to be the thing that will continue to generate iterations upon iterations that will continue to pull more and more people in. All right, man, we will have to leave it there. If you haven't claimed your Lens profile yet, go over and claim your Lens profile. We got to see that number keep going up. Sandy just needs to see that number be like the God green candle on his Dune dashboard moving forward. And yeah, I think this just continues to be the most exciting part of this this cycle, wherever we are in it. I think it's L2s plus the social layer is going to make this entire world we're walking into meaningfully different, and excited to see where it goes. So thanks, Danny. Hope you have a great day. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Josh. Thanks, Jesse.
See you, man. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Oh, yeah. All right. If you're hanging out with us over on Twitter, you can come join the live stream and live chat at live.seedclub.xyz. We got some mints. We got some absurd comments. We got people calling me a big millennial energy over here, which I own. We are the biggest demographic in the world right now.
What was that a reaction? What was that a reaction to? You talking about being around in the early days of Web2?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. 100%. That's it. Oh, there we go.
What up?
How you doing, man?
I also have big millennial energy.
You can tell by all my lovely books I have behind me.
BME. I'm here for it.
All right, man. Okay, so from decentralized social to, well, I mean, I think there's actually a lot of, you kind of find yourself playing in a similar-ish area. This idea of creator monetization, this idea of platforms that kind of enable new types of financial relationships with people creating and consuming on the internet. We got Johnny Mack here, founder of Fabric, Hypersub. I don't know, maybe there's 2 or 3 other things that you've spun up in the last little while as you continue to chase the opportunities in front of you. But why don't you give us a short introduction for many folks who might have not be aware of what you're doing?
Yeah, so we started the company about 18 months ago. The first thing that we built was a crowdfunding protocol. That didn't really get the kind of traction that we'd hoped. And also too, we didn't really see like a big business opportunity there. But it certainly got our feet wet in like building on chain, building protocols and building user-friendly clients for interacting with them. And so I think as we kind of went back to the drawing board and we're thinking, okay, what should we build next? The thing that really stuck out to us, especially this past year, is we're like, well, what are people doing on chain now? And overwhelmingly, from our perspective, the answer was they're minting NFTs, and so we're like, okay, that revealed itself as this like very durable end user behavior. It's a simple, discrete action. It's well understood. People continue to do it. So we're like, the next thing that we do should absolutely have that as kind of the call to action. That's the mental model. It's to mint an NFT. Then we're like, okay, but we don't want to build like a minting platform. We don't want to build a marketplace. Like, where's the opportunity there? And so, we started looking at, well, how are people using NFTs now? Like, and, for a lot of them, it's like, you see it, you mint it, and then it kind of just disappears into the ether of your wallet. You sort of forget about it and nothing much more happens. And so we're like, if you look back at kind of the height of the last cycle, people were like using them in all kinds of really interesting and creative ways for access to events, access to perks, group chats, all sorts of things. And we were like, that's a really cool use case, but the economic unit of the NFT is sort of broken for that, because what's happening is the purchase of an NFT is this discrete form of value transfer between buyer and seller. Like, I create this NFT and I sell it to you and you buy it, and that's the end of our economic relationship. And in the case when it's being used for access or for recurring benefits, that is very asymmetrically unfavorable to the creator. It's actually like a worse economic outcome relative to like Web3 alternatives. And so we're like, well, what if you could make the revenue recurring? What if there was recurring payments in exchange for continuous access? Like, not a novel idea. Other people had thought about this. There was like, I think 3 prior EIPs for NFT subscriptions. And so we're like, well, that's a good idea. And just because it hasn't happened as an EIP yet doesn't mean we shouldn't just do it. And so that's what we did. We basically just started with a boilerplate 721 contract, just a basic NFT. And then we added this dimension of time to it. And so rather than just minting an NFT, you're minting time on an NFT. And so as time passes, your balance of time decrements so that you have to continue to pay into the NFT contract to get whatever access, has been promised. And, our view with kind of building on chain is it's not enough to just build a protocol. You have to build an app on top of it. No one cares about your protocol. No one cares about your professor coin or your white paper or whatever. You have to make them care by creating a great user experience, a great product, and then demonstrating that you got it right by showing growth. And so I feel like we're like, we need to make a best-in-class UX. And so that's what Hypersub is. We have Hypersub, and that's kind of this like product that's built on top of this NFT protocol. And there's other pieces I can talk about, like rewards. There's a rewards piece to it. There's on-chain. Yeah.
I'll get into all that, because that's the thing that gets me the most excited. But I think that, Josh, I feel like your newsletter should be a Hypersub at this point here, with some dope Peace Node art coming through.
Yeah, Josh.
It probably should, shouldn't it? It's on. Yeah, we'll have to talk to Paragraph and see what they think. But is there a Paragraph? Is there a Paragraph Hypersub integration?
We're talking to Colin. We're homies with Colin. Really like Colin, and I would like to make that happen. We actually just had Kalo yesterday launch his Hypersub. I think it's some like 20,000 subscribers on Substack, and he's like, I'm moving everything on chain. So more and more writers, I think it makes sense to have the payment rail be on chain. You know, you can do all kinds of interesting composable things by virtue of the fact that the subscriber data and the credential are public.
Yeah, let's maybe jump into, because I think, you know, Jess and I have just repeatedly been fascinated and talking about, I guess, protocol rewards broadly and just how they've unlocked this whole like on-chain transaction distribution ecosystem. And it feels like you guys are kind of running at, you know, bringing these economic alignment superpowers to subscriptions with, I think referral rewards are one piece, but I think even more interestingly is the subscriber rewards piece. So do you want to just like talk a bit about those and maybe share some cool examples?
Yeah. So we had done like a first pass on the contract on the protocol, and it didn't have any of the rewards piece at all. And I think this is right around the time that like Friendtech was blowing up, and we were like, why is Friendtech blowing up? Like, what are the causal mechanics, like the causal mechanisms leading to this growth? And like, I think that speculation was a big piece of it. And like, the more, you know, I could talk a lot about like our kind of how we're oriented in terms of thinking about the benefits of crypto. Like, I think there's this Goldilocks zone of crypto where you can't be full degen. You can't just be full degenerate gambler, casino, like, you know, trading. I mean, you can, and there's certainly a market for that. But I think like the Web3 promise is more than just that. But you can't turn your back on it either. You can't ignore it, you know? And so there's this like Goldilocks zone that I think the winning products will inevitably occupy. And it will involve real value, real world value, as well as these kind of like Vegas sort of mechanics, you know, like where you can get upside. You can speculate, you can play these kind of like money games. And so we did the first version, and then we were like, okay, we're too purist, you know, like we need to move into the like closer to the like degen end of the spectrum. And so we're like, what does that mean? How do you do that? And we're like, you have to cut people in on the growth of the subscription. And so basically the way that we did that is at deployment time, the creator has the option to allocate a percentage of the subscription revenue into an on-chain pool. So let's say I'm going to put 10% in. So for every $100 that comes in, every $100 of subscriptions that gets minted, $10 will go into a pool. The question is, what happens to that pool? What happens to that $10? And the answer is that the earlier you subscribe and the longer period of time you subscribe for, the greater your percentage of that pool. So actually, you can see this. You can see a visual representation of this. If you go to Hypersub, you click on a subscription. Like, for example, if you click on Solana Oxen, he's got like, I don't know, 20 ETH or something like that. If you look at the rewards tab, you can see there's like this pie chart. Yeah, so like rewards. So yeah, there's 24 ETH in this pool. Oxen allocated 2%. So if you scroll down, you can see how that 2% is broken up. So you can see I'm actually at the top because I subscribed for over 2 years. So I have 1.9% of the 2% pool, right? So that's 0.01 ETH. Now, as this subscription continues to grow, so too will that 2%. So it allows me to essentially speculate on the growth of this creator. Now, the catch is that in order to access these rewards, I have to have an active subscription. So the kind of design principle here is there's two basically, which is you cannot take out more than what you put in, and you must be an active subscriber. You must be putting money in to take money out. Now, for the vast majority of subscriptions, this will function as a discount. However, at some point, you know, if something grows big enough, fast enough, it will flip into being a discount to being profitable. But it's dependent on the growth of the subscription itself. So, I
mean, the thing that gets me that's most excited about this is this idea of like, you kind of just have this new widget and protocol rewards thing that you can imagine applying to a bunch of different contexts. So I think it makes like Hypersub such a great example because it makes it very tangible, right? There's people that you want to support. A lot of the content that's coming through is actually NFT drops, and so you're sort of subscribing to much more on-chain media in a way that people are probably seeing benefit even beyond that, right? Some of these NFTs that you get through your subscriptions have market prices to them, and then of course there's the insights, and so we're seeing a lot of people using this in many different ways. But that almost payment widget in my mind is like the thing that I could imagine plugging into all sorts of different types of opportunities. It feels like the core innovation here really is, it's protocol referral rewards on chain almost as a service.
Yes. Yeah. So, there's a bunch of different use cases we're seeing. Art subscriptions, membership clubs, freelance services. The interesting thing is a couple SaaS developers have been like, yo, I just want to use this to like gate access to my product. Like I have a freemium model, and I want to have the paid features be via a Hypersub NFT. And something that a number of people have said is they're like, the subscriber rewards give me all the benefits of a token without having to actually issue a token. And I'm like, oh God, that's right. And we didn't even think of that. That wasn't even something that we'd imagined people like wanting to do, but it makes perfect sense in hindsight. And so we actually have another product that we're kind of prototyping and working with a couple developers on building, which gives them, it's essentially the same Hypersub contract. It's just a very different user experience that's built on top of it. So it's more of like a Stripe checkout kind of experience where you're in the SaaS product, you click, subscribe, it takes you to checkout page, you subscribe, and then you're good to go. And then depending on how long you subscribe for, that's going to determine the rewards you get, which cuts you into future revenue.
So you're being accused of running a whole other business here by Mark in the chat. This is Johnny's real business is being the first and longest subscribers on Hypersubs and raking in all the subsequent subscriber fees.
So if you go to my profile, actually, if you go to so scroll down into the like 1 year. Just click. Just go to /nonlinear.eth. Just append that so it's. Yeah, there you go. / So just by subscribing, I've earned almost 0.6 ETH. So like that's not including all the degen and all the USDC and everything else. So like I try to like maximize the referral rewards that I can generate and also subscription time. And like my co-founder was like, dude, stop using referral rewards. Like you're taking money out of artists' pockets. And I'm like, I'm trying to demonstrate what can be done, like how the system can be used. Like I'm the canary in the coal mine, Plus, I just put the money back into subscriptions.
I was gonna say it's a infinite money glitch for your creators here. I don't think it's going anywhere else. Yeah. And then, what's sort of a place you want to direct people to, or maybe a last thought?
Hypersub.xyz. And the last thought is that our strong conviction is that recurring revenue on chain is a better model for artists and creators, and not just because you can do things like share upside with your subscribers, but because the network itself, the network of supporters, is public, and so if you want to host an event, if you want to do a group chat on Workcast, if you want to do a subscriber gated live stream or whatever, you can do these things without having to ask for permission from us or rely on us to build those features. So I think like we're making a huge bet on the interoperability of Web3, and just trying to provide a better payment rail, for creators who want to do interesting things. So yeah.
You roll deep, Johnny. The chat is super active in here. People have flooded in, and I'm assuming you got some hyper commenters up in here.
I got the
fans.
Yeah, the meme armies. All right, man. Make sure you go. I appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you, guys.
Johnny, have had numerous conversations over the last little while, and very excited about the threads you're pulling on. I think there's some really interesting things happening there, and the fact that you do it in a way where you've got a whole crew who's super excited about the support and tools you're building, I think is just wonderful to see. So thanks for hanging out with us today. and we'll see you on the internet.
Appreciate guys. See you later.
See you, man.
Take care.
Big builder energy, big millennial builder energy here today. Love to see it.
What's cool, I feel like most of the times I hear about or see hypersub out in the wild, it's someone either being like surprised at the money they made by like supporting someone early, or like saw a cast the other day. It's like, oh, I always subscribe for 12 months now because of this. You know, the math changes when you're subscribing, right? It's not like I'm going to do the minimum so I can see if I like it. I'm actually going to do the maximum in case this thing pops off. So it's cool how it just kind of subtle changes in mental math can go a long way.
A good side of the spectrum to be on.
Yeah. All right, let's go. So you guys were in Austin at South by Southwest this week. Went to Brand New, or we co-hosted or participated in Brand New with Boys Club. So just wanted to do a quick check-in on how that went. I know Boys Club always throws a hell of an event, so I just love the download.
Yeah, I mean, they are exceptional at putting on a good time. It was hosted at the proper hotel. Every detail was thought of, and there was 200 plus amazing people there. I think that, crypto adjacent, the conversations were sort of definitely not into the weeds of the tech side, a lot more on the sort of cultural, social, creative angle, but a whole lot of sort of diversity and thought and ideas there. That was exciting to see. My favorite look was on the face of a guy who I don't think had a whole lot of touch points with Boys Club before, and was just shocked about how this didn't feel like any other crypto conference he's been at. And I would just think that's generally a comment on the fact that there were women there. Like the majority of people were there. So, the work that Boys Club continues to do there is awesome. Had the chance to host a panel where we kind of explored what the fuck is this new internet. We had Jessica from Instars on, Vibu from Drip, and Karine from Zora, which was a lovely conversation. It was a good time. And I think what was fun is that we created a magazine, a zine. I don't know. It was a sort of paper fold out piece, did some incredible designs. We had some stories about some of the founders that we worked with, a bit of a vision for C Club, etc. It was all over the place on the internet and all over the place in the venue itself. And we've put those up as mints today, actually, on Zora. So if you want to go over and have a look at that and collect it, I think we can drop it in the chat here.
Nice.
Good times. South by Southwest is always good energy. Boys Club's always good energy, and like always, the sort of events and dinners and things that sort of spun out from that were incredible as well.
Yeah, it felt great. It was just like people from a lot of different consumer industries, basically, and even a good job of bringing together like people from social media outside of crypto, and hearing that perspective kind of in the mix was a nice context to make, I think, for a lot of people, just to see that it's bigger than any single transaction. It's the new internet was the right framing, so they did a nice job.
I think it was an example of what's to come, or what more is to come, right? Like you get the sense of real people building real things. Not saying that infrastructure isn't real, but it's a thing that can be or feels more real to a wider audience, and that's super bullish in my mind.
Are we on the path to crypto becoming cool, or not cringe to mass population?
I mean, I think
we might be.
I think it needs to get scarier. I think that crypto needs to lean in to its roots with Silk Road for the masses to come back. But no, I don't know. I'm kidding. But only half.
I mean, I think it was a very crypto believer audience. Like, I don't think there was like this. I wouldn't call these folks mainstream new folks that came in, though. There's definitely skewed away from what you would probably see at an ETH Denver meaningfully. But yeah, I think we have these tools now that people are actually building things that people are touching and clicking buttons on, and there's a bunch of others that you see here on the list as well. So I think we're on that path. But Peace Note thinks everything needs to go to zero first so it can have its redemption arc before we get the next wave in. So
well, a lot of it has, and I think we're seeing the next wave. We're on the slow grind up for minus 90%, which I think is the most valuable thing we could. I made the best tweet of my life the other day, which is that the only product friction that I want is the slow grind up from minus 90%.
That's a good tweet. That is a good tweet.
Because I believe in it.
It is a good healthy period of regrowth.
This is good. Yeah, goodbye. This was how they opened up. Everyone hates us with all these headlines. Is crypto dead? Why is crypto so annoying?
What is the "Here come the cry"? What's after that? The top right. Top right.
Oh yeah, I don't. It's cut off. I wish I
Oh
could.
man.
Yeah, I would love to see what that says. That's so funny.
It's got to be an NFT dig somewhere.
Right. Good stuff.
Yeah. Shout out to
Nice.
Boys Club. Go mint those NFTs. We'll drop them in the chat, and yeah, stoked to see what they do next.
Sick. Yeah. So next, I just want to touch on. So Multicoin dropped a good post this week, kind of talking about the attention theory of value and this new opportunity that they're calling publisher exchanges. So basically, they outlined how crypto has kind of proven, or crypto assets have proven this ability to capture, store, and ultimately value attention. And they think the big opportunity here is to basically couple that value capture ability and exchange and value transfer and exchange ability with the traditional kind of publishing model that has captured all attention for the past couple of decades. So in the same way that the consumer internet made the atomic units of information dramatically smaller and more fluid, crypto is doing the same for value. So really, like, the design space for what can be traded and where it can be traded is completely blowing open. So they think really the big opportunity here, which I think I agree with, is in building things that will allow these like marketplaces of attention. So I think TikTok, Instagram, Netflix is like traditional kind of marketplaces of attention, and really like colliding those with these new crypto powered marketplaces of value. So really like building apps that both can control the flow of attention through content, media, and information, and flow and control the flows of value alongside that. So I think great post. They highlighted a few categories within that they're especially excited about. So they highlighted messengers. So Telegram bots is an early example. People are there chatting. Often a bunch of the alpha exists there. So being able to allow people to trade and exchange in context through Telegram bots is kind of an early example of that. I think content networks, they highlighted Unlonely, which we've talked about a bunch in the past. Information markets like Polymarket, and special interest communities like Constitution DAO is their example. As all these categories they're excited by. So I thought it would be interesting to, I guess, Jeff, you've read this, so curious about your reflections on it. And also, when I was reading this, we've talked about attention networks, which eventually we will write about. So just kind of testing our thinking about attention networks alongside this kind of thesis, I think, is interesting too.
Yeah, I think it was probably 2 weeks ago where Peace Node, we were talking about creation of meme coins. And I think he said something like launching a meme coin today feels like launching a well-produced YouTube video 10 years ago, 8 years ago. And I think that was, very aligned in this framing, this idea that this is a new media type, it's a new medium, and that sort of the act of creation around digital value is actually, I think it's a helpful framing to sort of put it into the context of how we participated in social media, or the creation of media around it. And you can start to imagine how tools and like where aggregation might happen around it, et cetera. So I think Jesse Walden's tweet on this, where he said he called it user-generated assets, I think is like the short form that resonates the most with me. And I think we're seeing like a lot more niches emerge here, right? In where I think meme coins for people are sort of like this almost monolithic idea. It's a meme, a token. There's market dynamics that emerge around it, but there's a whole lot else that happens. And I think with Unlonely or Bracket the Game is a team that's launching something in the next few weeks, or maybe even this week, next week. They're sort of creating these other contexts where attention and the trading activity that's happening there is maybe less about buying and holding and riding this thing up to a million X, but rather there's sort of like a relative attention that's being traded on at any one moment, and that there's sort of transaction fees that drive off of that. So I think I would expect to see other innovations in this world. I think they do a good job here at sort of showing where that exists today. And they're like, a prediction market being a meaningfully different thing than a stream on Unlonely, but kind of have similar dynamics as far as like the outcomes people are playing around with. So I'm excited to see that. But I think generally what I liked when I saw this, I was like, okay, we're in this phase right now where we're intellectualizing meme coins, which I think feels very important. Yeah. And I think it's like this path that we've been on a bunch, because it's like when you say I like meme coins, I was at a dinner, it's like I'm a big fan of meme coins. And the stare I got back from that was like, what? And I had to provide a lot of context on it, right? Because that what comes up generally in people's minds is the zero sum, shitty culture of things, or maybe culture that is repulsive to many but not to a small group, and that's kind of where they emerge from, and it's all about number go up. But I think there's a lot more possible here, especially like for us, this idea that attention is the core currency of the internet, or maybe even our modern world, and that tokens are a product that can represent that attention and then do a lot of really interesting things with it. So I think I saw a post from Jesse. We saw this post from Multicoin. Lee was talking about the hot and cold media of meme coins, which I thought was interesting. Jared Dicker just came out with a piece yesterday talking about sort of the new media business around meme coins. Like, this is very much going to pick up, and so I think for those of you that are maybe sitting on the fence around meme coins, I think you should expect to see them to start to shift a little bit, and the narrative to shift away from the sort of edge that they're on right now and into things that I think fit with this idea of a new primitive, valuing attention, recognizing that being able to break out of irrelevance and onto the scene in some way is essential, and that tokens can be an incredible tool in doing that. And so I think there's a lot of room to experiment here.
Yeah, this article kind of got me thinking about in this whatever publisher exchange world, what the actual like dominant form of atomic units of value or attention are going to be. And I just like can't not think that they're going to be meme coins, or at least look a lot like, or have the properties of what today's meme coins have, because they're just proving to be these like very the purest, kind of most flexible and most entertainment form of like value carrying assets that we've seen yet. And I think I think the opportunity that they highlight here is, something we've talked about, which is really just creating the context that people want to transact within. And then that unlocks, the ability to take transaction fees and a bunch of other business models. And I think another interesting opportunity here, if meme coins kind of do become these like, the dominant atomic form of or unit of value, is also just being the place, and kind of been thinking about this a bunch this week and trying to like formulate my thoughts around it, but being the place where consensus actually gets created around meme coins, right? Because if we're actually moving to this world, which I believe is true, where every brand and celebrity and sports team and blah 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 will have a meme coin, then like ultimately like all the value and upside in those meme coins is dependent on being the consensus like shelling point for them, right? So I think one huge opportunity is being the place where transactions happen. And then another huge opportunity is being the place that has the attention and social context to just kind of like consistently create the consensus meme coins in like one or many of those categories. So I think like, maybe like a sports example is kind of helpful here. So I'm pretty convicted that consensus sports team meme coins will actually be more valuable than the actual organizations. And if you're able to like build the defining product that sports fans use to socialize and speculate around sports related meme coins, then that product could potentially have exposure. And I think the mechanism design here gets pretty interesting. Like, do you take a percent of tokens? Do you take are there taxes on it that you get? But that product could potentially be sitting or having exposure to like billions of dollars of cultural assets and the related trading activity. So I think be a place where a lot of transactions happen is really interesting, and being a place where early consensus gets formed around meme coins is also really interesting.
Yeah, I think I tweeted the other day that the best meme coins are a meme plus mechanism, and use Bitcoin as like the prime example of that, like the best example of both, probably for a crypto use case. I think there's still a lot of room to roll on the mechanism side, and that's how I'm sort of thinking about innovation in the space right now. I think launching meme coins in their current state is just so many challenges to it, right? There's early actors, there's information asymmetry, there's the challenges around liquidity, etc. And I don't think we sort of found the thing that works really well right now. I'm not sure we found the thing that's going to sort of sustain into the future. And if you look out into the market of what's getting funded right now, there's a lot of teams that are kind of running at different angles there that I think are interesting. And also important to know that right now, like the place where that's happening is it's happening probably mostly on Solana. It's happening mostly on Bird Eye or Dex Screener. It's happening in group chats. And I think there's this belief that that will bundle up into more specific product experiences, but I'm not sure that's proven out just yet. And I think, there's at the very least sort of interoperability back with those broader networks generally, I think is probably going to be key.
Yep. Totally.
Yeah,
Okay.
well,
Go ahead, please.
I just really like it because it feels like such a contentious thing, but it's so awesome that at its core, all a meme coin is a fair entry into benefiting from a proliferation machine, which is every single crypto mechanism. And it's just like not the thing that some people are excited about, which
Proliferation machines.
that's exactly. It's like, you want a fair entry and you want to be able to meme and have fun and talk about it a lot and create value for everyone else who thinks it's also funny and fun to
That
talk
fair
about.
entry is the biggest challenge right now.
Right.
And I guess how you define it. I don't think it's inherently unfair, but some people had it more fair than they did. But maybe they should. Maybe they're the first people to get in. I have many thoughts on it, but I mean, I think maybe this next topic is super related.
Yeah. I think what's cool about Dracula is a fresh example actually of this like publisher, an example of a publisher exchange. I hate that name. So just an example of an attention
not the
network,
name,
whatever.
not the name.
It's not the name. But so yeah, it was launched by Alex Mazmej, who's been building in crypto consumer for a while. And basically they're taking the publishing model of TikTok, like it looks like TikTok, and coupling it with an engagement point system and native creator speculation. So, it's early and raw, and I think the content leaves a lot to be desired. But I think really what's interesting here is how they've decided to leverage degen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, but Michael Saylor and Bunny Girl, I'm in. This app rocks.
There we go. So instead of just like immediately launching their own token and dealing with the complications of that, or even just using ETH, they've chosen to price all creator shares in degen. And I think this has proven to be really smart because it's allowed them to really effectively tap into this meaningful existing social context to incubate the product alongside, which these like live or die on. So the degen community loves it because it's giving them a new social and economic playground for their native currency that they all love, and it's driving meaningful new demand for it. Like I think when this launched, the token price is up 150% because of the way it's integrated into the product. So it kind of feels like maybe like a meaningful innovation in how you get the attention of crypto scenes. Like the old model was to airdrop tokens to align communities and hope they don't dump or get motivated enough to come and use the product. And I think what they've done here is actually just natively integrate the token into the product, which seems a lot more interesting.
Yeah, I think to me, I mean, I love just seeing founders that are just iterating through bear markets. So shout out to Showtime and now Dracula. I don't get the name, to be quite honest. There's in the blood that's going around, but maybe I'm probably not the market that this is aimed at, given my BME. Big millennial energy for people who are just joining right now. But to me, so yeah, I think there's you love seeing the app go down. It means people are using it. There's it launched into a whole bunch of attention. I think that's one of the benefits of doing it with degen. But for me, it sort of shifted my thinking around what degen is actually building, and I think that's like a really interesting innovation, right? Where they're talking about this sort of L3, where you almost have this social context and an early bought-in community who's going to be your early users for this thing. And so, I think we continue to take a lot of inspiration from degen for the work that is being done on the Enjoy network and token. And my guess is that something like degen is going to exist in many different L2s or other networks where you almost have this sort of strong launch pad that is done through a simple integration. And I think importantly, these sort of publisher models, God, are we going to use that?
No, we're not.
We'll use it today. We'll use it today until we can come up with a better one. Are driving value off of transaction fees, right? So it's not about just launching their own token, right? And so there's a business model there already, and so it kind of allows them to go play in these other playgrounds without losing optionality to do their own token or whatever else they might want to do in the future. And so I think for builders, that's probably like the most important thing that Dracula and degen has done here in my mind. It should open up a new lane for thinking about go to market and value creation and business models ultimately. Yeah,
and I mean ultimately this is a big part of our hope with Enjoy when we decide to launch it, right? Is if you have this shelling point for people who care a lot about on-chain media and putting culture and creativity on chain, then that's something that builders, creatives can tap into to get the attention of that scene when they need to. So I think it's very useful primitive. Yeah. And I was just imagining Dracula will be able to kind of continue doing this and even giving creators the opportunity to like choose what meme coin their shares are priced in is super interesting, right? Like imagine someone is like priced in Zin or Trump or Popcat or like whatever meme coin. It's kind of this like really interesting like identity community alignment signaling for creators. So that could be cool. Okay.
I like it. It's gotta be a vampire attack on TikTok.
I think I'm assuming that's the take. I think that's the thing. Yeah.
Got it.
They should call it
cool.
blood.
So
great emoji. Why not? Sorry.
They do call it blood. Their point system's called blood.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. So know that. So I really like this response from Joel John to Nader. So basically, Nader tweeted that it's a red flag when a founder spends time talking about their market or token price instead of focusing on building. And
come on,
Joel John wrote a very thoughtful response to it based on his, I think, years of supporting founders. But yeah, basically his TLDR, which we very much agree with, is that founders need to be narrative engineers, stay close to the meta, and constantly make sure market structures are in their favor. So we've just seen time and time again how easy it is to get investor and user attention when you're sitting on a hot narrative, and how much of a struggle it is when you're not. And you can hate that, but ultimately attention and high valuations are a very important ingredient in attracting the talent and capital that ultimately builds great products and sustainable moats. And it's a huge part of what we think about when we're selecting teams for our cohorts. If we can see a clear market narrative and for what they're building, and we can see how we can position it within it, it gives us way more confidence that we'll be able to get the attention, capital, and usage they need to go succeed.
Yeah, it's not either or, right? And I think people just like to be binary in this take, right? And so that's the frustration I have with most of these sort of conversations. You need to do both. You can't just go build a great product and expect people will come. Like that just maybe hasn't worked since 1996. But you can't go just build narrative and not build a great product. Like you'll just have hype and then death. And so you kind of need to
it'll just be a top 100 coin on CoinGecko.
There was an era, and that will you can get high valuations of market cap without having real product, but that doesn't mean that you should aim for that. Like I don't think that.
No, 100%.
Same with meme coins, right? It's like, yeah, Doge is a great example of what's possible, but you don't see the million other attempts at that have gone absolutely nowhere. So
it actually leads well into this apps versus infra thread that Regan from Lattice dropped. Really just like exploring whether applications are going to finally have their day, or if we're just going to replay the infra cycle where all the most valuable things that come out of this cycle are going to be infra. And, he ran through and showed a bunch of examples, just how, Dimension and app chain focus L2 trades at an $8 billion FDB with $27 million in TBL, and Rocket Pool trades at a $750 million FDB with $5 billion in TBL. So just the further down the stack you get, the higher the premium projects get. And this is just a cycle where investors know that, so money continues flowing into infrastructure, and smart founders who don't want to fight the markets recognize this, so then they're incentivized to go build infrastructure. And I think good thread worth reading through. At the end, he starts talking about how, and we've had conversations around this recently too, how like consumer inclined builders, when if they have an app that has usage and they have proprietary distribution, like pretty quickly it makes a lot of sense in today's market to consider vertically integrating and building your own infra. If you can launch an L2 today, 10x your FDV, attract a bunch of new attention, like should you not do this even if you're a consumer inspired builder? So I think probably all of this will eventually correct as the market matures, but I think
that last point is the key point, right? Like we saw this with the internet. We saw a massive overinvestment in infrastructure, and then a massive crash, and then the sort of app layers emerge from that. And I think a lot of other smarter people than me are starting to talk about this. I think Chris Reneski had a great tweet thread on this last week or the week before, poking at this question, right? So I think the faster that this sort of cycle continues, right now we're seeing a lot of late stage deals right before tokens, huge valuations. People just expect it to pump to a multi-billion-dollar valuation. I think the market can only take so many of those things before that narrative starts to fall. It probably can last a lot longer than one might think. And also I think like so much of like the valuations right now are really based on this as a narrative, right? The narrative is that people say, okay, L1s are valuable, L2s are valuable, this infrastructure is valuable, and therefore we can go place those bets. And that will be like that until it isn't. And so I don't think we should be just solely locked in that. And I think Reagan actually had a great thread talking about these later stage token deals and the token unlocks and all these sort of things that are coming on. I think we have an ARB unlock happening today that I'll be watching pretty closely. So it's definitely something to pay attention to. And I think just for builders, like, go build the thing that is right for your product. Right? I think like trying to just purely tap into narratives and time cycles.
Of course.
But I get it. And, you know, we've had numerous conversations around this topic that make me really conflicted as well. So, all right, give us one lightning round. My computer's going to die too, so I might drop off. But there we go. That's what we need. That's all we need right there. That's perfect. All right, folks, this is episode 20 of Internet Explorers. You can mint the episode on pods.media. We have a special mint up for the next little while from our brand new Piece Node Design, some wonderful things, great stories about some of the founders that come through Seed Club. So go give that a look, give it a mint, check it out. We'll be back here next Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern time. Peace, Josh. Appreciate the good vibes and conversations as always. And
Good to be back. Good to be back. Missed it last week. See you. Peace.
Alrighty. Peace, y'all. Ciao.